Congressman, I know it's your first time on this show. Welcome. Good morning.
Great, Hannah. Great to be with you.
You as well, sir. So what is your reaction to this new reporting that some of our foreign adversaries could be recruiting all those laid off or disgruntled federal workers in our country?
Well, I think, first of all, those employees need to be mindful of their obligations they have to the national security of the country. And so that is disturbing that our adversaries would do that. But at the same time, I think it shows that we do have adversaries out there, and it reminds us what a dangerous world we live in. But at the same time, I think we also know that the DOJ needs to continue working forward to get rid of government waste, to find ways to make things more efficient. The taxpayers want that. And frankly, we need that in order to get a handle on this national debt that we have.
I understand what you're saying about these federal employees and where their loyalty should lie, but I think a lot of them are really just trying to survive and get a paycheck. Are you concerned that any of these employees that have unique understanding of our nation's infrastructure might give this information to China and Russia?
Well, if someone does that, of course, they can be charged and tried for espionage.
Yeah.
So I would think that they wouldn't want to do that. But at the same time, if we have federal employees who are willing to help foreign adversaries, I think we need to get them out of the federal system anyway.
Oh, that's actually a very good point. Let's talk about the war in Ukraine now, sir. You visited Ukraine 2 years ago when you were House Speaker of North Carolina. I am curious about your thoughts of what transpired in the Oval Office on Friday between Trump, Zelenskyy, J.D. Vance. What will it take to get them back to the negotiating table?
Well, my understanding, I'm obviously quite removed from those meetings that were there, but it did seem to me that it was very unfortunate the way things went. But it seemed that President Zelenskyy had a unique opportunity to execute this deal, which would have brought U.S. interests there and would have thereby provided a lot of security. And I think that he just fumbled the ball in a major way. And the way that he dealt with our president and our vice president, I certainly understand President Trump and Vice President Vance's reaction to that. It would be very difficult with the amount that our country has stepped up to be so generous to help this great country that I want to see remain free. But I would submit to you that I think President Zelenskyy did not handle this properly. But I do hope that things can settle down and that we can come back together, because Vladimir Putin is a very dangerous man, and we know he has broader ideas of where he wants to go. And I do believe we are the world's great superpower, the defenders of democracy, and it bodes well for us, bodes well for our national interest to keep Putin in check.
Congressman, when we talk about Ukraine, with your unique perspective here, what do you know that most Americans don't know when it comes to that nation?
Well, having seen it firsthand and knowing folks who were there, who were missionaries, who were providing aid and relief, I like everybody else, really want to see peace there. There's people dying senselessly. There's so many brave folks in Ukraine who have fought valiantly, and we need to make sure that they win. At the same time, we need to make sure that American taxpayer dollars are used wisely, and we need to make sure that we don't get drawn into the conflict with boots on the ground as well.
Let's turn back to this country, sir. Proposed federal spending cuts. We know there are wildfires that broke out in North and South Carolina on Saturday, near your district, not in your district. FEMA has been helping North Carolinians for months since the hurricane back in October. The president has proposed getting rid of FEMA in the past. DOJ has cut about 200 people from the agency's workforce. Congressman, I've been so interested to talk to you because you have so much experience in this. You're on Trump's council to assess FEMA. What role would you like to see the agency moving forward? Should the agency still exist?
What's challenging about FEMA, for example, the fires that are burning in our state right now, some of which actually are in my district on the western edge there, FEMA's not there putting out fires, right? That's your fire departments, that's your volunteers, that's folks in the community responding to this disaster. What I envision for FEMA is essentially a way to get federal funds and resources to help those local and state agencies that are the actual boots on the ground dealing with these issues. And what we've seen with the way the flood relief has helped is that there are many times where FEMA, again, not the folks there trying to help on the ground, but the bureaucracy based out of D.C. gets in the way. And we've seen the same thing, frankly, with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. These folks want immediate relief. And of course, this is still an active situation right now in Western North Carolina. So obviously, our thoughts, our prayers are with our friends and neighbors right there. And I will tell you, though, that the first responders in our communities are doing all they can to get these under control. But these are pretty serious fires. There's a lot there, but they're working hard to contain these.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.